whispered logic puzzles. Thank you for joining me. I'm Andrea, and I'm going to continue on the Mosaic in the Pictopix app. We're on the second Mosaic, or the third row. These are Nonogram puzzles on a 15 by 15 grid. Okay, I'm going to start on the right side. I have 6 plus 8 is 14, and then the X in between makes 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the X, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And since this is along the right edge, that means I can look at the right digit in each of these row numbers, and I know that that's how many will be on here. So this row, I've got 2, so 1, 2, and then an X. Here's 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then an X. This is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then an X. 3, so 1, 2, 3, and then an X. 1, 2, and an X. 1, 2, and an X. I don't have one over here, so I can't do this row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then an X. This is just 1, and then an X. This whole row is 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and this row is complete. This row is the same, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and this row is complete. This one has 2, so 1, 2, and X. This row is 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, has 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This row is complete. So now I'm going to look at this second column. I have the 6 at the bottom, and that's why it's kind of grayed out. This upper part is 8, and I have all but this one spot. Now this column's complete. So now I can look at this row. This ends with a 7, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and an X. And I'm going to look at this column. It has the 3 complete, and the 3 at the bottom complete, but there's a 5 in the middle. It's got 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom, so I'll connect them. And now this column's complete. And in this row, I can see that this is part of a 3. So I'll do 1, 2, 3, and then an X. I'm going to look at this column. There's a 2 at the top. I see there's 2 right here, so I'll put the X above, and that's complete. At the bottom is 9. So do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then an X. And then there's 1 in the center. This is the only spot left, so I'll put 1 right there. This column's complete. And now since I've got 1 in this row, I can see that's part of a 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and an X. And I start at this, and I can see over here it's part of a 2. So 1, 2, and an X. And I'm going to look at this next column that starts with a 2. There's an X here, so 1, 2. The next part is also a 2. I can't go down because then it would connect to this 9 down here. The bottom's a 9, so I'm going to put the X here. And then it'll be 1, 2. So this column's complete. And on this first row, I can see that this is part of a 2, so I have 1, 2, and then an X. And in this row, I can see this is part of a 3. So 1, 2, 3, and then an X. This column starts with a 1. And at the bottom, and that's complete, the bottom has a 3, which is complete, and a 2, which is complete. Next is another 2. I'll put in the X to complete that. And then a 3, so 1, 2, 3. This column's complete. And in this row, I can see this is just a single 1, so I'll put an X right there. And then looking at this column, it starts with a 2. That means I can put an X right here because this is the 2. I'll put an X right here. And then next is a 5, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then an X. And then it's got that 3 here, so it's complete. And in this row, I can see that this is part of the first 3, so I'll do 1, 2, 3, and now this row is complete. Alright, in this column, it's 1 and then 10. So the 10 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I don't have enough information to know where that 1 so I can't complete this column yet. But in this row, this one is part of the 4 here. So do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then an X. And in this row, this one is also part of a 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then an X. And just looking at this row here, it has a 3 at the beginning and there's 3 here. So 1, 2, 3. You've completed that row. Okay, this column, it ended with an 8, which is complete. And then has a 1. I'll put the X here for that to be complete. And there'll be a 2 up here that I'll need to find. This column ended with the 6. It then has a 1. I know that this is the 1 because I can't fit another 1 in here. So I'll put an X on each side. And then there will be a 2 up here later. This column ended with a 4. Next is a 1. I can't guarantee that this is that 1 because there could be a 1 here and then an X. So I'm not going to mess with that yet. This column ended with a 2. Next is a 5. This is only 2 spots here, so I can't fit the 5 in here, so I'll put X and X. And then I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and this column's complete. This column, I've got 2 ones at the bottom, and then there'll be a 6 up in here, and I can see if the 6 starts here. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If the 6 were to start down here, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in this column, I have 2 ones at the bottom, and then I have a 2 and a 4, which adds up to make 6. And the X in between would make 7. So if I wanted to find the bottom of the 4, I would count 7 from the top. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if I wanted to look, so if that 4 started here, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'd have an X. 1, 2. I can put that 2 here because I know if we started here and had 1, 2, so those that I highlighted are spots that I know have to be. And then this column again has the 2 ones at the bottom, but then there's a 6, so if it started here, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If it started down here, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looking at some of these rows. This starts out with a 1 and then a 4. So I have a 1, and then I'm going to do an X. 1, 2, 3, 4. That row is complete. This starts out with a 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this row is complete. And this row is complete. This row is complete. This row has a 2 and then a 7. So I can put the X over here, and then either this or this will be part of the 2. And there will be a 1 down here. I know the 1's not here because in this column I've got a 1 right there. And this is 1, this has a 6. If it started here, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That finishes this column. In this top row, there's a 3 and then a 2. So in this section is a 3, so it starts on this side. So 1, 2, 3, and then X. And the 2 is in these. So 1, 2. And now this column is complete. This column starts with 2, so 1, 2. This row is complete. And now I've got that this column has a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And there we go. We finished the first of these puzzles. Let's go on to the next one. This is going to be nice and smooth, it looks like. I'll start at the right again as we've got 15. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Let's look at this first row. It has a 6 plus a 6 is 12 plus a 1 is 13. The X here makes 14, the X here makes 15, so we'll fill the whole row. So do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and an X. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then an X and 1. Again, the second row is 6 plus 6, which is 12, plus 1, which is 13. This X makes 14, this X makes 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, X. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, X, and 1. This next row has a 7 plus a 6, which is 13. The X in between makes 14, which does not fill the whole row, but if I look right here, this column starts with a 2. I put the X at the bottom of the 2. And suddenly this 6 and 7 plus that X does fill the whole row. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and an X. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This row has 3 plus 3, which is 6, plus 7, which is 13. The X here makes 14, and the X here makes 15. So I have 1, 2, 3, X. 1, 2, 3, X. 1, 2, 3, plus a 6, which is 14. The x in between makes it 15. Again, it's the whole row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, x, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This next row there's a 9 and then a 5, which makes 14. Plus the x in between makes 15. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and an x. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this next row is 15, so that fills the whole thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. This next row has 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and an x. This next row is 13 plus 1, which is 14, and the x in between is 15. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and an x, and 1. This next row has 12 plus 2, which is 14, and the x in between makes 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, then an x, then 1, 2. This next row has 5, plus 5 is 10, plus 3 is 13. The x here is 14, and the x here makes 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, x, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the x, This next row has 8, plus 3 is 11, plus 2 is 13, the x here is 14, the x here is 15. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, x, 1, 2, 3, x, 1, 2. This next row has 7 plus 7, which is 14. The x in between makes 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, x, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there we go. We've completed that puzzle. Now we've got one more to finish this row in the mosaic. This one, I think I'll either start along the left side or along the top. Maybe I'll do the top to change it up a bit, but both of them are 15, which makes a nice, very clean beginning. So let's do the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We're going to look at the first column. It is 15. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. This next column is also 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. This next column is 11 plus 2, which is 13, and the x in between it is 14, which does not fill the whole row. I know the 11 starts at the top, but one of my little things that I notice here is that at the bottom, this goes out 9, so I know it touches the bottom. And then, so I look here, I see these 2 rows starts with 2. So if I put an X there and an X there, suddenly my 11 and 2 will work to fill up the column. So do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, this column is 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. This next column is 7 plus 7, which is 14, and the X in between makes 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, X, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, this column is 15. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. This column is 5 plus 8, which is 13, and the X in between makes 14. That doesn't fill it up except for, I look down here and this row starts with a 9, which it has. So when I put the X here, suddenly that 14 does fill up the row. So do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, X, 1, 2, 3, 4, is 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And this column is 1 plus 13, which is 14, and the x in between makes 15.